think it's time I moved from Gleba. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Factorio. This is John with Logistic Space Games. You're watching Factorio, episode 46. I just remembered I don't have a personal Corvette to go between different planets anymore. I just now am riding along with one of the freighters, depending on how long it takes for us to get what it needs to get, which is probably not too long. Last episode, we got not one, not two, but a couple of builds, maybe 3 or 4. I got my chemical science done to where it is a lot more easy to distribute the resources. It's not going to be spread thin between different machines. We also did that same thing with our utility science, which is going just as fast. And to get our utility science to where we're making it this fast and we're able to rely on it enough, low density structures being made at a higher rate, at a smaller scale, basically more compact, but all legendary. And last but not least, but you see on Vulcanus, I have insane amounts of plastic being made, and it fills up very, very quickly. This episode, I'm going to continue what I was doing last episode with the science. I'm going to do with the automation, logistics, and military science as well. And I'm actually going to probably do something with production science where I'm going to move it to where these two stone deposits, it's just going to be over here. I have a plan of using this little crude oil deposit right here to supply me of all the plastic I need to make plenty of red circuits. All I need to do is bring the molten iron, and I'll be able to make myself all the rails and all the components I need in order to essentially get myself production science all made on site and all the resources on site, except for, like I said, of course, we have the molten metal we need to transport over here. That's fine. And last but not least, I need to absolutely update my space science, because we took a look at our production here. As far as space science is concerned, we don't make it very quickly. We make maybe 400 a minute on each of these, I would say. Yeah, about 400, maybe 350 a minute. Now, that might not be this episode, depending on how much I get done, how much time it takes, as well as with Aquilo. I have not forgotten Aquilo. So let's get started with the first science, our automation science. Let's redo this. Alrighty, so I've got my automation science block made, and we take a look here. Each building is going to make us 27.5 science per second. In comparison, let's take a look over here where we have our utility science, 19 a second. This setup right here is a full quad belt setup, so I should not be seeing any issues with any starvation of resources. Not really. We take a look, legendary foundries, and I have a similar setup, kind of like with my plastic setup on Vulcanus. We're pretty much filling up these belts for the most part. Not quite, because technically there are some inconsistencies here, but ultimately we're making quite the number of automation science pretty quickly. And in fact, if we wanted to, we could go ahead and take a calculator. 27.5, multiply that times 16, and we get 440. So we're getting basically 440 automation science a second. Okay, so we'll look at our science, and oh my god, that went up to 26,000 a minute. Now we can start working on our logistics science, which this is going to be fun. Narrowing all of this down. All of this is way too much. I only really should need one block for the automation science. Now, if I'm not mistaken, automation science. So this is going to be a little bit slower. Probably going to be more around like low 20s to mid 20s. Take all this down. Try to have it just all in one segment up here. All right, so I have my science being made, and it's not as fast. And I'm still getting speed modules from Vulcanus, which, by the way, speed modules, they're still kind of being made slow, but I have them, if I have to, I'll let them build up a little bit before. But the speed at which these will be at is 22.9 per second, so it's a little bit slower than my automation science. It may be a minute before I get all my speed modules. I mean, I'm getting 138 inserters a second, so I mean, it's a little bit of a mess up here, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really plan this very well, but this is still a lot better. It is a lot more clean. Now this is a little messy right here, but ultimately I think it's a lot cleaner. So if we take a look, is there anything starving of resources? What about this? There we go. All right, let's see if this starts to improve a little bit. Okay, so that jumped up to about 17,000 a minute. So it appears that the maximum amount of inserters I can make, at least based off of this, is 172 a second, which is pretty impressive. That's pretty good. The only problem that I have These consume 11.4 per second. We're going to get ourselves 182.4 a second. So it consumes 10 more than we're producing. So there is going to be some dead time on probably these last ones right here. Unfortunately, the only thing I can do, I guess I don't see why I couldn't do this, is just add another machine somewhere in here to try to do this. But like I said, this is a kind of a messy setup. It's cool though, because I didn't really plan this, but I have my automation and logistics block right next to each other, and it kind of looks cool. I like the look of it. Of course, I have my metal all the way over here. I could probably just stage this right here. I feel like that would work. I'll just leave this here for now. If I find that I want to use this space for something else, I will. Now I'll look at my military science over here. If I'm going to be consistent with speed modules for the grenades, I'm going to have the grenades kind of be in the same spot. It's science, so it's going to take grenades even longer. In fact, really what we could do, so we get 16.5. So 16.5 times 16, get 264 grenades made a second. That is not bad. Ammo, I really want to make more compact version of this. I have 4 blocks of this where I could probably condense it down into 1 if I really needed to. And my walls are already really kind of in 1 block, so I don't know. And this is interesting because I remember when I first started making a mega base, I thought that the ones that I made were it and I would be good. So I'll be right back with my military science, and it's going to be another jump cut. Alrighty, I have my military science underway, and it is just about the same as my automation science and logistics science, which is of course all full. And we take a look over here. Is it all full? It is not all full, but it is getting there. And it is not going to be as fast because right now I don't have all the speed modules applied. 2 piercing round manufacturers here. They got about 19 a second. We have the copper and the steel. Still producing a pretty good amount. The main thing that I did is I went ahead and put regular speed modules on here until I have enough for the legendary speed modules. So at least they're going pretty fast. This whole concept I could have been doing even without the legendary equipment and probably be getting just a little bit more of a streamlined result from all of this. But better late than never, right? But we do have, as you can see, it is kind of depleting a little bit. Which, by the way, if we look at my research, I got my mining productivity. I'm going to try to get it to 1,000 at some point. So we could definitely use that. So we're getting that research up, and we're getting our military science, and it is already full. We're already good on the chemical science. And then, of course, we have our utility science up here. It is doing fine. The last thing that I have not done that I probably won't do this episode, I think this episode will be it. Our first 3 sciences have been taken care of. Yeah, our automation, logistics, and military science have all been taken care of. Production science, I think I'm going to combine my production science up here. Pair that with an episode of making a space platform to replace all 5 of these in order to get space science. Because right now I am just doing mining productivity. Let's get that up a good bit. I might do a little bit more of that in between episodes, in between takes. That being said, I think this episode has been pretty successful. It's not very much technically this episode, not anything major new, except for we just changed our automation science, our logistics science, and of course our military science. We changed this up so it looks a little bit cleaner. I say cleaner, it's kind of cleaner. Our walls are literally 1 segment up here, and technically I could have just had this down in this segment, so I have a bunch of free blocks up here, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference to me as long as it's nice and compact and very easy to see. This is John with Glass Piece Games. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for next episode, where hopefully I get my production science revamped and I get my space science completely revamped. And look at that science per minute, by the way. Y'all have a good one.